The dragon collapsed in Kale's arms, and as its final breath escaped its shattered chest, the lingering heat seeped into his skin like a living presence, burning without flame, awakening something that had slept within him since birth. Rain hammered down from a pitch-black sky, turning the ground beneath his knees into thick, blood-slick mud. Still, Kale did not move when the immense body went slack against him. The dragon's massive head rested beneath his chin, heavier than stone. Its scales were cracked and dulled, its breathing gone so suddenly that the silence felt louder than thunder. Far behind him, the city bells rang out in frantic celebration, joyful, careless, and cruel. Each ringing note cut deeper than any blade. Kale had been weak all his life. Weak in the way the world enjoyed mocking. Sickness had stolen his voice when he was a child, leaving him mute and unwanted, a boy who could not shout, argue, or beg. The city named him broken, cursed, useless. He slept behind a forge, worked for scraps, and learned early that kindness was rare and always conditional. He followed the soldiers into the hills not from courage, but because something inside his chest hurt too much to ignore. He heard their laughter, the scrape of chains dragging through the mud, and the wounded roar echoing across the valley like a plea for help. No one else answered. While the city celebrated safety, Kale walked into the storm to face the truth bleeding alone. The dragon was still magnificent, even in ruin. One wing hung nearly torn apart, white bone exposed. Alchemist fire had scorched its flesh. Iron chains cut deep into its limbs, stamped with the king's seal, proof this was not a battle, but an execution. The dragon had watched Kale approach with no rage, only weary understanding, as if it already knew how this story would end. Now it stared lifelessly into the rain. Kale pressed his forehead against its scales and shook, silent tears lost in the storm. He had no words to offer. No prayer strong enough to matter. He held it the way no one had held his mother when fire took her and the city turned away. Two discarded souls, clinging together in the mud. Footsteps churned through the wet earth. Lantern light spilled across the scene, harsh and yellow, revealing Kale kneeling beside the dragon's corpse. The soldiers halted, startled at first, then laughed when they recognized him. Captain Rovan stepped forward, armor polished, pride weighing heavy on his face. So, he sneered, the mute crawled out to mourn the monster. Move aside, boy. We're here for the heart. Kale shook his head fiercely and wrapped his arms tighter around the dragon, as if his thin body could shield it. His hands trembled as he pointed at the chains, the wounds, the burns, trying to speak without words. Rovan's smile hardened. Mercy doesn't keep cities safe, he said. Fear does. Weapons were raised. As steel advanced, something inside Kale fractured. Heat surged from his chest, sharp, blinding, uncontrollable. When he gasped, fire exploded from his mouth in a violent burst. It struck the nearest soldier and hurled him backward, armor glowing red as his scream tore through the rain. Everything froze. Kale clapped his hands over his mouth in horror. Smoke curled from his lips. His throat burned, alive with pain and power. He looked down. The dragon's eye glimmered faintly, as if death had not fully claimed it. A voice echoed gently inside Kale's mind, ancient and calm. Do not let them turn me into a lie. The soldiers advanced again, fear twisting into fury. Rovan shouted orders, calling Kale a curse, a demon, proof that dragons poisoned everything they touched. A blade cut into Kale's shoulder. Warm blood mixed with rain, and the pain drove him forward, collapsing onto the dragon's neck. A talon pressed against his chest. Fire poured inward, not wild now, but focused. Memory, will, sorrow, and purpose transferred all at once. Kale screamed as his heart burned and rebuilt itself in the same breath. The dragon exhaled one last time. Then it was truly gone. Kale rose. His eyes glowed like embers beneath ash. Heat rolled from his skin, turning falling rain into steam. The chains melted into the earth, the king's seal warping into nothing. And Kale saw the truth. The truth was not stories, it was memory burned into his soul. Kale saw dragons hunted, trapped, and rewritten into monsters. He saw kings building authority from fear, priests blessing chains, and soldiers calling cruelty their duty. He saw this dragon choosing restraint again and again, refusing to become what they needed it to be. Captain Rovan charged, screaming. Kale lifted his hand. A wall of heat stopped the captain mid-stride, flames licking his armor without killing him. Rovan collapsed into the mud, sobbing, terrified, finally small. "You chained it," Kale said. His voice was raw, cracked, but real. "It spared you." The soldiers fled. Kale turned toward the city, toward the bells, the lies, and the walls built to keep truth out. Guards gathered atop the gate, weapons trembling as they stared down at the boy who had once been nothing. "I am not your monster," Kale said. And neither was it. Some shouted for his death. Others hesitated. An old woman whispered about her son who died in the mines, bound by chains forged in the king's name. Doubt spread like fractures through stone. Kale did not burn the city. He turned away and walked into the hills, carrying the dragon's fire and its final hope. The rain softened behind him. The horizon began to glow. The dragon was gone, but its power endured, not as destruction, but as truth carried forward by someone the world had tried to erase. And for the first time in his life, Kale walked not as a victim, but as a promise.